Speaker for this session, Professor Marijana Kapovic Solomun. So before I start our presentation, I would like to read Professor Kapovic Solomun's biography. Professor Marijana Kapovic Solomun is a university professor of soil science and degradation for 20 years. She graduated from University of Banja Luka, Faculty of Forestry, as the best student of her generation, while master and PhD study was finished at University of Belgrade, Serbia. Additional education was done at USA, Germany, Russia, China, and other countries. Our field of expertise covers several different fields such as land degradation neutrality, sustainable land management, soil erosion, soil conservation, and forestry. She has served as an expert of UNCCD SPI from 2018, and she's now an expert of different European Environment Information and Observation Network groups, and also a team leader of numerous international projects supported by the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, of the United Nations Environmental Program, and others. She'll be speaking on this topic, soil, resource, and land degradation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Please welcome Professor Kapovic Solomun. We're glad to have you, Prof. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for a nice introduction. And I'm wondering, may I share my screen? Yes? Okay, good. So today I'm going to briefly introduce you with the soil resources and the land degradation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So first of all, I would like to say where we are. So we are next to the Italy, close to the Croatia and Serbia, between. We were part of ex-Yugoslavia 30 years ago, so we are in the Europe. Administrative structure of the country is very specific because after a war that we had 30 years ago, our administration has been structured in the way that state level of decision making is not jurisdicted for the land and soils or forests. So all jurisdictions for the natural resources rely on the three entities: Republika Srpska, Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Brčko district. This is the administrative, let's say, structure of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and you can see 13 units, and each of these units has their own government and Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Water Management. So at this moment, for 3 million people of the population of Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have 13 ministries of agriculture, forestry, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So very complex administration. Secondly, the climate characteristics are also very complex. North part has been continental, moderately continental, central part are mountainous part, and south part is connected to the Mediterranean, which means that we have that kind of climate. So when it comes to geomorphology and vegetation, here you can see that we have more than 50% of forests and forest land with the different geomorphology characteristics of the country. The same with slopes. Why I'm saying something about slope? It's because our huge problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina is soil erosion, and here you can see that almost 40% of the country rely on the slope above 15 degrees. And there is a soil map that has been left behind the war, back to the 1992, we had printed soil maps. In that period of time, we didn't have GIS. So after that, we tried to digitalize the map, and now this is what we have. And even though some parts are missing, we still do not have a chance to create a new soil map of the country. When it comes to protected areas, you can see that we all total protected areas are 3.61% of the territory, even though the European goal by the 2030 is 30%. So we are far below of that percentage. When it comes to the state of land resources of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, here you can see land productivity dynamic as one of the 3 indicators for the achievement of land degradation neutrality. Here you can see that we have decrease of land productivity on 2.5% of territory, while on the other hand, we have almost 80% of increasing land productivity on the other hand. Considering soil organic carbon stock, the light part, the light green part of the country is related to the intensive agriculture. All what is dark, it is related to the forest. So we are still on the safe side in terms of land degradation comparing to some other countries. When it comes to the main land degradation drivers, but this is some feedback that we had from the local communities. What is maybe paradox of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, the country located in the heart of the Europe, the country with great climate, with a very great biodiversity, a lot of drinking water, rivers, forests, mountains. The main problem here is abandoned fertile agricultural land. We are facing with great migration trend, where people goes from the rural to urban areas, but also outside of the country. Therefore, we are facing, let's say, the problem where we have in bush and vegetation encroachment of the fertile agricultural land. Second, the most important problem are erosion, floods, and drought that we are, let's say, we are very affected by these land degradation drivers in the recent 2 decades. So also another problem with soils and land resources of in Bosnia and Herzegovina are mine contaminated areas. Even though 30 years before the war, after the war, we still have 2.5% of the territory with mines, suspected mine contaminated areas. Also, to deal with any kind of, let's say, new approach like land degradation neutrality or nature-based solution or sustainable development goals, whatever, you need to have a consensus of the government institutions. And when you, if you remember the information from the beginning of my presentation, you can see that we have 13 ministries of the agriculture, and after 30 years. After war, we have strong political tension between 2 entities. And under that condition, it is very challenging to implement anything that is new and change policy framework to be sufficient, strong, and implemented as it should be. Existing agriculture and forestry practice are, let's say, traditional. Agriculture is the area that is not that much interesting for the population, and many people just resign from the agriculture and go to the urban areas, while the forestry practices are still conventional without, let's say, introduction of new digital and remote sensing methods that can be used to improve forest management. And of course, there is a poverty, therefore under that economic situation, sometimes forests are perceived as the main source of the economic income for the households, and that's why we have a lot of illegal activities. So under this condition in Bosnia and Herzegovina, what can be done? That is the question for all of us, not here today, but for the people who are living in developing country, who has potential to, let's say, introduce sustainable land management measures, but the way how to do it is the question that should be answered. This is the example of the afforestation of south part of the country that is connected to the Mediterranean climate and very vulnerable to the drought, frequent wildfires. Almost, I don't know how many times every year we are having wildfires in this area, Herzegovina, and this is the picture from 1916, where the people did not afforest the area based on the simple afforestation, but they used gradons, they used different solutions to give the better chance for the seedlings to survive in the first few years of life. So this was something that was done 50 years ago. Today, with all new approaches, techniques, I don't know, possibilities, I think we should start with something new, and we should I don't know, give the better chance to the nature and environment to recover and to be more resilient to the climate changes. And finally, research. I think research is something that we cannot stop with. The research is job not only for the researchers and scientists. Research is job for all of us. This picture is from some urban park in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where we start soil sampling to research level of soil contamination by heavy metals. And this is my family who works with me on the ground, even though they are not connected to the science, but everyone can be included to combat, let's say, different drivers of land degradation, but everything should start with with any kind of research, in this case with soil research. So considering we have 10 minutes for the presentation, I think I'm done, and I'm still below the 10 minutes. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that educative section. So I have a few questions for you before the end of our session. So let me go straight to the questions. The first one is, how does land degradation in Bosnia compare to other regions in East Europe? Can you give us?
Yes, I think many of the Balkan countries, where we have Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Greece, and then let's say move to Eastern Europe, we are experiencing the same problems. So if we have to raise 5 of the most common land degradation drivers, that could be soil erosion, frequent floods, and consequently drought, wildfires, and unsustainable forestry and agricultural practices.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. My next question would be, what do you think is the most effective method to curb the most effective restoration efforts in your research?
Here we have one of the problems in the, let's say, restoration in Bosnia and Herzegovina is that, for example, we are investing a lot of money, for example, in afforestation of bare land. But the approach, how we are doing that, is not suitable, because sometimes you need to consult the science to see what kind of plants you should use where. And for example, level of the success of the afforested areas is very low. It's below 20%. So the main restoration activities here, since we have a lot of forests, since we are not that much affected as, for example, African countries, the main restoration measures are mostly related to the afforestation, reforestation, land reclamation. But my opinion is that we should be more, let's say, better connected with the science and the newest, let's say, scientific results to achieve better success in that process.
There is a question in the chat, but thank you so much for that response. Let me take the question. It says, what are the economic, social, and environmental consequences of soil degradation for rural communities and ecosystem in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Of course, there is a consequences that mainly are related to the economic status of the households, particularly rural households, and people overcome that in the way that they just move out from the rural areas and go to the urban areas or outside of the country. And that's why I already said that the most important problem of land degradation in Bosnia is abandoned fertile soil and in rural areas. So there are many consequences, but now I think the biggest concern of the government is how to keep young people in rural areas to stay there. You should
That takes me to another question. You mentioned that there's a lot of impact on the social and environmental. There's a lot of consequences when it comes to land degradation in communities. So it takes me to this question. And the question is, how can we engage local communities in soil conservation practices since they are affected by this land degradation?
From our experience, the most efficient way is to provide them some kind of incentives from the government. First, to keep the agricultural production, and then to introduce some new sustainable land measures to improve their soils. So only way how to do it is to get some additional funds to invest in that particular measure. So I think we are starting to be aware of the importance of that, let's say, incentive parts, because average perception of the people in Bosnia and Herzegovina is that we have enough land, enough water, enough forests, so we don't have to be worried about it. And it's very hard to, let's say, engage them actively to combat existing problems of because here media doesn't talk that much about land degradation or climate change or biodiversity loss, because something those questions are of secondary importance, because economic incomes and the economic status of the people are the first one. And that's why, let's say, these kind of questions are not that much attractive for the people.
Thank you so much. There's another question here from Ayomida Jeremy. So let me read it to you. Jeremy is asking how a local community involving, I think that one has been answered. There's another question.
Yes, I'm seeing international organization, NGO plays what kind of role. Yeah, as a developing country, we have, let's say, a lot of support from the international sources like GEF, GCF, I don't know, LDN Fund, and many others. And NGOs and academic communities are, let's say, promoters of these things. So if we don't do it, no one will do it. So that's why if you want to support soil conservation, first what you have to do is to put that question on the table to the decision makers. How can you do it? The pressure from the public audience is the most efficient way, because if you don't comes out, I don't know, for example, this morning I had two TV shows. The topic was land degradation on the occasion of this day. So you have to promote that not only as academia, but also as NGOs, to put the pressure on the decision makers to start thinking about soil conservation and start to do something about it.
Yes, mentioning the last question before I allow Happiness to come up and ask this question, what policy measure do you recommend to prevent further soil degradation in Bosnia and Herzegovina?
For example, the development and adoption of law on soil protection. For example, Serbia has that law. It was very, let's say, very challenging process to adopt that law, because many people were against law on soil protection. And in Bosnia now we are trying to negotiate about, but in that case we need to develop 13 laws on the soil protection for each, let's say, government units. And without a law on soil protection on the state level because of the constitution and jurisdiction. So I think the policy framework is the first step toward implementation, because if you have something in the policy framework, then you can use that as a mechanism to achieve something on the ground. Otherwise, there is no any support from the government.
Thank you so much. I think we have Happiness. Do you have a question, Happiness?
Yes, I have questions. Okay. Thank you very much, Ma, for the presentation. Really enjoyed myself. So so these are my questions. How has the historical context of Bosnia and Herzegovina, including its past conflicts and ongoing recovery efforts, influenced current challenges related to soil and land degradation? I don't know if you get my question. So sorry, my first question.
Can you please go over it again one more time? Thank you.
I'm not sure if I understood the core of the question. Sorry, because it was some interruptions. Okay. Historical context of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Before the war, we were part of ex-Yugoslavia. And then I think our, let's say, Department of Soil was the most famous one in the Europe. And the most famous professors of the soil science were there in Sarajevo, in Department of Soil. And then we had a war. After the conflict, we split out, and all data that we already had disappeared. I don't know, was burnt or something. And today we are facing corruption. We are facing a lot of different other challenges where, let's say, the conflict still exists, but on the political levels, because entities are struggling to get jurisdictions over the soils. In that case, we don't have a chance to think about the other, let's say, more important problems that are more concrete, like soil restoration on the ground. And what are the opportunities for us are, let's say, international funds that are used for the concrete implementation of piloting around the country to show how can soil erosion can be stopped, how land reclamation can be done, but that the mostly rely on the international sources.
Okay, thank you so much. I think there's another question in the comment section. It's from Nkechi. Nkechi is asking, what opportunities exist for enhancing soil health through technological innovations? What are the opportunities?
In Bosnia and Herzegovina, I don't know, not many opportunities, because we are developing countries and we still rely on the, let's say, foreign knowledge and knowledge who is coming from the Europe. But on the other hand, soil health is not the question of the primary importance for the people here and the decision makers. And on the other hand, we have a bunch of the healthy soil that is abandoned. What is the very let's say big problem for one part of Bosnia and Herzegovina? We experienced NATO bombing also in 1997, but only one part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we have, for example, uranium contaminated areas. But and I think that could be so. And if we want, for example, to research soil contamination, the first plots should be there where we were bombed by NATO. But there is no political will for that. And how can you get international support to research that kind of problems? So from that point of view, let's say we can select many different problems with soils, but some of them are still politically sensitive and are not allowed to be researched. This is the example of that.
So much for this. This is actually an insightful section, because me, I've learned a lot already, and I'm sure our audience have learned so much about soil conservation as regards Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Thank you so much.
Can you please pronounce the country? I'm having Herzegovina, right? Did I get the pronunciation right?
The pronunciation of what?
Of the country.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Okay, thank you so much. And wish you happy whatever it was again. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.